Hi there, wonderful people. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back to my channel. Your hub for those who like psychology and everything in between. My names are Dr. Eunice Menja. Of course, my Jomo Kenyatta students are supposed to be here. These are your exam materials that I am presenting here today, and for others who just want to learn. I'm thrilled to have you here as we continue learning. I invite everyone to join me as I explore, discover, learn, and teach us. Whether you're passionate about socio-emotional or psychological development, and even culture, you are in the right place. So as you listen to my content, I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you for those who have been sharing, comments, and liking my videos. I value your input and love hearing from you. Express your reactions with emojis. Let's keep this conversation lively and fun. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update from me. So let's continue with our clinical psychology notes. Today I will be talking about the socio-emotional development. This is a continuation. If you haven't watched my other lecture 1, 2, and 3, this is lecture 4. In the field of psychology, we do study how socio-emotional processes impact mental health and well-being. Understanding how individuals from relationships regulate emotions and develop personal traits is very crucial for effective therapeutic services for those who are going into therapy. Similarly, in sociology, we do examine how socio-emotional development shape societal structures and dynamics. So from family structures to cultural norms, socio-emotional processes influence our social interactions and our collective behavior. So I'm combining this lecture for both your needs for the psychology, for the social psychology class, as well as the sociology, because I would have still covered this topic in sociology class. So this particular lesson is going to bridge clinical psychology and sociology, mainly for my university students, again from JKUAT, highlighting these two topics: interconnectedness in understanding the complexities of our behavior or human behavior, as well as our society. So let's look into socio-emotional development, especially in childhood. So socio-emotional processes, these would be called the changes in our social relationships, emotions, and personal qualities. We will be looking at how these processes take place from infancy to late, all the way into late adulthood. So when we are looking at the socio-emotional development in infancy, the first thing that we are probably going to dwell in a lot is temperament. Temperament does refer to an individual's behavioral style and characteristic ways of responding. So for infants, temperament centers on their emotionality and ways of reacting to stimuli in the environment. The three basic types of temperament in children are easy, and we are going to talk about them here next. So we have easy, difficult, and slow to warm up. The easy child is usually in a positive mood and establishes regular daily routines in infancy, Of course, parenting an easy child can be a very joyous experience, of course, filled with moments of ease and harmony because the child is easy to soothe, has positive interaction with the caregiver, and of course, does not cry as many times as the other babies. If you don't have a cry baby, that's always a very good thing. Easy to parent such a child because they can play and they're not whining all the time. On the other hand, the difficult child reacts negatively, cries a lot, and has irregular daily routines. The difficult child is also not accepting of new experiences. So parenting a difficult child can be exhausting and demanding as they require extra patience, consistency, and also understanding. However, with the right support and strategies, difficult children can learn to regulate their emotions and behaviors more effectively. So the slow to warm up child has a low activity level, is somewhat negative, shows low adaptability, and demonstrates a low intensity of mood. Other researchers suggest that infants should be judged on effortful control or self-regulation, which is managing arousal and not being easily agitated, or inhibition, that is being shy and showing distress in new situations. And negative affectivity is the inclination to frustration and sadness. So parenting a slow to warm up child requires sensitivity and encouragement. These children thrive in environments that allow them to gradually acclimate at their own pace, building trust and confidence over time. I remember my first child was not an easy child, was a crybaby, was a colic baby. I didn't know that until so much later, and I remember I could not keep a house girl because my child cried all the time. That is the nanny would always say, I don't want to live with this girl. I don't want to take care of your child. She cries too much. Sometimes she would cry and I would cry because I didn't know what to do with a cry baby. I didn't know that my baby was suffering from colic. So we're going to talk about infant attachment. A classic study by Harry Harlow demonstrates the essential importance of warm contact. The study involving infant monkeys clearly demonstrated that what the researchers described as contact comfort, not necessarily feeding, is crucial to attachment of an infant to the caregiver. Infant attachment is referred to as a close emotional bond between an infant and his or her caregiver. Many developmental psychologists concur that attachment during the first year provides an important foundation for later development. Mary Ainsworth devised a way to study differences in children's attachment called the strange situation test, in which the caregivers can leave an infant alone with a stranger and then return. The responses of children in this situation are used to classify their attachment style. So these are the attachment styles that were found out of that research. And the first one is secure attachment, which refers to how infants use their caregivers as a secure base from which to explore their environment. So imagine Eva, a toddler, with mom, let's call her Daisy, shares a strong and secure attachment bond with a mom. Since Ava's infancy, Daisy has been consistently responsive to her needs, providing comfort and support whenever she seeks it. Whether it's cuddling her when she's upset or engaging in playful interactions, Daisy is attuned to Ava's cues and emotions. So their relationship is characterized by trust and affection, with Ava feeling confident in her mother's availability and responsiveness. So the secure attachment allows Ava to explore the world with curiosity and independence, knowing that mom is there to offer guidance and support whenever she needs it. Their bond strengthens each day, laying a foundation for Ava's emotional well-being and healthy development. Of course, critics of the attachment theory argue that cultural differences are not accounted for by this research. So another critique of attachment theory is that it may not account for temperamental differences among infants that might color the attachment relationship. Attachment theory is definitely a cornerstone for clinical psychology. It informs us how early relationships shape mental health, therapeutic approaches, and resilience in children or individuals. It helps psychologists understand how attachment patterns impact emotional well-being, interpersonal dynamics, coping strategies, guiding interventions to promote healthy relationships, and psychological resilience. So we're going to talk about Erikson's theory of socio-emotional development. Erik Erikson's lifespan development theory states that there are 8 psychosocial stages of development. According to this theory, the first of the 8 stages occur during childhood, and the last 4 during adolescence and adulthood. Let's look at the first stage, which is called trust versus mistrust. The trust versus mistrust stage occurs during the first 1.5 years of life. Trust develops when a baby's basic needs of comfort, food, and warmth are met. If these needs are not met, then the result is child is going to develop mistrust, so the opposite of trust. This stage has profound implications for clinical psychology. Individuals who develop a sense of trust during infancy are more likely to form secure attachments and experience positive relationships later in life. And that actually even includes intimacy. Conversely, those who experience mistrust may struggle with intimacy, trust issues, and even mental health challenges. So in clinical practice, therapists often explore clients' early attachment experiences to understand their trust-related beliefs and behaviors. Therapeutic interventions focus on building trust, repairing attachment wounds where the children never attached to their caregivers, and fostering emotional security. The trust versus mistrust stage is a crucial aspect of psychological development with far-reaching implications for mental health and well-being. So by recognizing the significance of early trust formation, clinical psychologists can better understand and address clients' relational and emotional struggles. Have you ever heard when people say that you should left the baby crying? When you leave the baby crying and you don't attend to the child and you say that they're going to self-soothe themselves, that child is most likely going to develop mistrust because you're not meeting that child's needs. So long as, the child is crying, always there's something that they are communicating. And there are times that, maybe the baby is a cry baby, but most of the times that's their language. So if you ignore the baby, most likely what is going to happen is that, I don't have any adults to trust. I cannot trust anyone. So they develop the mistrust. Okay, so let's talk about autonomy versus shame and doubt. So in this stage, which occurs from 1.5 years of age all the way through 3 years, in this phase, children seek independence through autonomy. If the need for autonomy is not met, the child feels shame and doubt. Remember, when the child is at this age, it's when the child is always saying, I'm going to do it, I'm going to feed myself. They are saying in Swahili, sitaki kusaidiwa, like they don't want your help, I'll do it myself. This is the child wanting autonomy. I'm gonna read the book for myself. In this stage, children develop autonomy and self-control if they are guided by the adult and the adults are not overly controlling, or they may experience shame and doubt about their abilities. So for example, So Sarah is a toddler who is encouraged to explore by her parents. She gains confidence and independence. She's able to hold her own spoon. She wants to hold her cup. The mom is not always baby spoon feeding, laying a foundation for healthy development. So the autonomy versus shame and doubt stage is crucial in understanding psychological development, guiding clinical practice to promote confidence and resilience. Clinical psychologists address issues of shame and doubt, helping individuals build confidence and autonomy through therapy. A lot of times when you're going to look at kids at this age, you might think that the child is shy, but most likely they are actually feeling the shame because they have never been allowed to do anything. This stage is influenced by societal norms and cultural values, and this is why our sociology comes in, impacting how children develop autonomy and self-esteem. For example, in the US, parents may encourage autonomy, fostering confidence. I have to give you this example because it really impacted me. I remember the first time I moved to the US, my child was almost 2 years. I took her to the daycare here in America, and people are looking at me in a very weird way. You know why? Because I was still feeding baby, giving my daughter baby food. You know, I was blending the food. I was spoon feeding her. You know what? By 1 year here, actually almost 1 year or before 1 year, children are put on a high chair. They are given peas and beans to feed themselves. Nobody actually blend the food at that age, and so that's what I'm talking about. So it also depends on the culture. So for example, I said in the US they encourage autonomy a lot. That's why you see a lot of kids most of the times they're really doing a lot of things by themselves very early, fostering confidence. In contrast, in some African cultures, obedience may be prioritized over autonomy, leading to feelings of shame. Understanding social cultural influences, of course, before you make conclusions is very, very important because it informs both sociology and clinical psychology, guiding interventions for culturally diverse populations. Social cultural factors may play a crucial role in shaping autonomy development, highlighting the impact of considering cultural context in understanding human behavior. And then the other one is the initiative versus guilt. This stage occurs between 3 to 5 years of age. At this age, children in this stage seek out responsibility and initiative. If the drive toward initiative is not met, feelings of guilt ensue. In this stage, children develop a sense of initiative or may experience guilt about their actions. For example, someone like Sam. He eagerly joins a sports team, embracing new challenges with enthusiasm. His initiative fosters confidence and a sense of purpose. So from a psychological standpoint, initiative promotes self-esteem, while guilt can lead to self-doubt and anxiety. Sociologically, societal norms influence how children perceive their actions. Culture that prioritizes achievement may foster initiative, while those with strict expectations may induce guilt. You know, always wanting the child to do the right thing, so you're always going to do the right thing for the child because you don't want them make mistake, and that's really what is all about, the initiative versus guilt. So understanding the initiative versus guilt stage offers valuable insights for both psychology and sociology. So it sheds light on individual development within social context. Let's talk about industry versus inferiority. The stage occurs from age 6 through puberty. Children in this stage achieve industry by mastering knowledge and intellectual skills. If they do not achieve industry, they may feel inferior. This is what Erikson is talking about. In this stage, children develop a sense of competence or may feel inadequate. So thinking about a boy like Alex who thrives in a competitive school environment, his achievement boosts his confidence and reflects industry. Psychologically, industry fosters self-esteem, while feelings of inferiority can lead to self-doubt. Sociologically, societal expectations influence children's perception of success. Cultures valuing competition may nurture industry, while strict standards can induce feelings of inadequacy. Understanding the industry versus inferiority stage sheds light on individual development within broader societal context. And that's how we are talking about the differences between culture and, how we view those stages. So we're going to talk about parenting and childhood socio-emotional development. So all these things, there's a parent behind it. So everything that we are talking about, who gives the child autonomy, who gives the child, an environment for them to enhance their skills. It is a parent. So parenting, Diana Baumrind. So the last name is Baumrind. I forgot to put that in my slides. Diana Baumrind described 4 basic styles of interaction between parents and their children. And the first one is authoritarian parenting. Authoritarian parenting obviously sounds like a good thing because it ends with A-I-N. And I know I had a very hard time mastering these parenting styles, but now I know that authoritarian is a strict punitive style of a parent. The authoritarian parent firmly limits and controls the child with little verbal exchange. You know, those parents are always like, you have to do this, and there's no question because mommy said so, daddy said so. So imagine a household where the parents enforce strict rules and expect unquestioning obedience from their children. This is the case for the Kamau's family. Mr. Kamau and Mrs. Kamau. Mr. and Mrs. Kamau believe in maintaining tight control over their children's behavior, setting rigid rules without much explanation or flexibility. They expect their children to comply without question and often resort to harsh punishment when rules are broken. So authoritarian parenting can have very significant implications for children's psychological well-being. Research shows that children raised in authoritarian households may develop low esteem, increased level of anxiety, and a heightened risk of depression. The strict and punitive nature of authoritarian parenting can hinder children's ability to develop autonomy, problem-solving skills, and emotional regulation. So in clinical psychology, therapists may work with individuals who have experienced authoritarian parenting to address underlying issues such as low esteem, anxiety disorders, or maladaptive coping strategies. So this is where the occupational therapists and psychologists come in. So you're trying to do the damage that was done by the parent from the beginning when the child started growing. So from that sociological perspective, authoritarian parenting reflects broader societal norms and values regarding authority, obedience, and power dynamics within the family. Authoritarian parents is often influenced by cultural beliefs. So as I said again, the way we parent our children in Africa is not the same way the children are parented in America. And that's why you see a lot of difference. Socialization practices some socialization practices do prioritize obedience and conformity to authority figures. So in societies like Africa, where hierarchical structures are prevalent. By the way, when I'm doing marriage and family therapy, I'm talking about these hierarchical structures are very important to keep order, of course. So the parents have authority, but not so much authority that the children cannot breathe. Such traditional patriarchal societies, authoritarian parenting may be more common. Sociologists study how parenting styles are authoritarianism perpetuate or challenge existing social structures and inequalities. They also examine how cultural norms shape parenting practices and impact children's socialization into society. And that's why there's so much research on this topic, especially parenting. The authoritarian parenting style exemplified by Kamau's family, has significant implications. It influences children's psychological well-being, socialization experiences, and broader societal dynamics, highlighting the complex interplay between individual development and societal influences. So the good parenting is the authoritative parenting. It encourages the child to be dependent but still places limits and control on behavior. So the parent has their own limit of controlling, and they also allow the children to be independent. Okay, so you can make a mistake. It's all right. You don't have to be perfect. I am putting these rules, and you can bend a little bit, and I don't have to be crazy about it as a parent. So this parenting style is actually more collaborative. So consider Onyango's family. They prioritize warmth and communication while maintaining clear expectations for their children. So you can love your children. At the same time, you can also punish them for bad behavior. Their approach fosters a supportive environment where children feel valued and respected. Authoritative parenting correlates with positive psychological outcomes for children, including higher esteem and better emotional regulation. Therapists often work with individuals raised in authoritative households to leverage these strengths and address any underlying challenges. So if a child was raised in such a home, they definitely do have strengths. They can say, I have a loving parent, even though I'm going through this, I can get support. So that can be my social support or my support system. Authoritative parenting reflects societal values of autonomy and mutual respect with the family. So children are respected. It's not one way. It's, parents respect their children, children respect their children. Children respect their parents. It promotes healthy family dynamics and the transmission of positive cultural values. Sociology study how authoritative parenting contributes to children's socialization and the perpetuation of societal norms. Authoritative parenting style like that of Mr. and Mrs. Onyango has positive implications in fostering healthy development and reflecting societal values of respect and autonomy. And you hear some people say when they see like children have a little bit of autonomy, especially in an African country, you'll hear some people say, oh, watoto wako wamekukalia, or your children are sitting on you, or your children have too much power. But when it is balanced, that is the best parenting style. So let's talk about neglectful parenting. So the neglectful parenting is distinguished by a lack of parental involvement in the child's life. So you hear the word neglect, so obviously that is bad. Children of neglectful parents might develop a sense that other aspects of the parents' lives are more important than they are. And I can talk that over and over again. So we know that, we have cultures where parents are really looking for money, but that's not always the best because the child might be neglected, even when you're providing them, because you're not providing them with that attachment, you're not providing them with that comfort, you're not there for them. Meet the Johnson's family. Both parents are frequently absent, leaving their children unsupervised and lacking emotional support. The children struggle with self-esteem and trust issues due to the lack of parental involvement. Neglectful parenting often results in emotional distress, attachment issues, and low self-esteem in children. So you want to be there if you're a parent. Therapists may work with individuals raised in neglectful households to address trauma and develop coping strategies. So neglectful parenting reflects broader societal issues like poverty and social isolation. Sociology study how societal factors contribute to neglectful parenting practices and their impact on children's development. So I'm thinking about children that have been left, to wander in the streets and things like that. Thank God for foster homes, even when children are neglected. Thank God for children's homes, like the one I ran. In summary, neglectful parenting in the Johnson family highlights the importance of addressing both individual and societal factors in understanding child well-being. So Even if the parents are neglectful, somebody else, any other caregiver that can offer support for those children, the emotional support, is going to definitely intervene. All right. So one of the other things that I did not write there, that the number 4 is the permissive parenting. So permissive parenting places few limits on the child's behavior. A permissive parent lets the child do whatever he or she wants. For example, permissive parenting, I would give an example of Garcia's family. Let's call them Garcia's family. They have minimal rules and rarely enforce consequences for their children's behavior. So if your child goes to school and steal and come home and they have a note, the teacher wrote that they hit someone, and you don't do anything, you don't talk about it, you're permitting your child to do whatever they want to do. So if they want to go party, if they want to sleep, whatever time they want to sleep watching TV, and they're not, that's not necessarily neglectful, but you're permitting them to do even the wrong things. Permissive parenting may lead to issues such as lack of self-discipline and challenges with authority. So they will never know wrong or right because they do whatever they want. Children may struggle with boundaries and exhibit behaviors like entitlement. Therapists may work on boundary setting and self-regulation skills. And this reminds me of when I was growing up in the village. I always thought that I was in a very bad home because my parents were very strict, especially, and then there are these kids that they were allowed to go anywhere, they would sleep anywhere, they would come home anytime. But you know what happened? Most of the girls got pregnant, early enough when they were in class 8. Some of them didn't even do even KCP, or they didn't even go to high school, because permissive parenting is not always the best. It's not good. Permissive parenting reflects societal trends towards individualism. I grew up in an authoritarian home. Okay? I did. Prioritizing children's freedom. Sociologists study how this impacts socialization and attitudes towards authority. In summary, permissive parenting, like that of Garcia's family, affects children's self-discipline and attitudes towards authority. So they will never respect authority. And they get in a lot of trouble. By the time they're growing up, some of them are in prison because they don't know how to obey rules. They don't know the boundaries. They will take anybody's stuff. They will talk however, because nobody guided them. They were allowed to do whatever they wanted to do. That's the problem with that type of parenting. So before I go to social development, or the social emotional development and adolescence identity, I will talk about cultural context of parenting. So culture definitely influences the effects of parenting on children, especially authoritarian parenting. A lot of parents, especially African parents, they will parent their kids authoritarianly. Chinese parents, the same way, like that one of obey. You do whatever I tell you. Authoritative parenting, you'll see it some in, of course, I want to say, younger generation, that's how they are starting to raise their children. That's obviously a healthier way. So when you talk about the adolescence, the emergence of identity, Erikson viewed the key challenge of adolescence as identity versus identity confusion. In seeking an identity, adolescents must find out who they are, what they are all about, and where they are going in life. This is why you have a lot of trouble, because they are trying to find out who they are. Adolescents, they are poking, they are putting nose rings, they're dyeing their hair. I was that stage one time. I went through adolescent stage, so I'm not saying that I don't know what adolescents go through, but there's a lot that goes on when we are trying to actually find out who we are. There's a lot of confusion. Adolescents who spend this time in their lives exploring alternatives can reach some resolution of the identity crisis and emerge with a new sense of self. Those who do not successfully resolve the crisis become confused, they suffer, according to Erikson, and that is what Erikson is calling identity confusion. So adolescence is a pivotal time where individuals grapple with questions of identity, purpose, and direction in life. Erikson posited that successfully navigating the stage leads to a coherent sense of self. So, trying to explore who you are in terms of culture, religion, it is not bad. While unresolved issues result in identity confusion. If you think of Sarah, a teenager exploring her identity through various interests and experiences, by embracing new opportunities like reflecting on her values, Sarah gains clarity and confidence in her sense of self. So, in clinical psychology, identity exploration is crucial for adolescent development. Therapy supports individuals like Sarah in exploring their identity through psychotherapy, psychoeducation, addressing issues like anxiety or depression stemming from unresolved identity conflicts. Sociologists do study how societal norms and cultural influences shape adolescent identity. For example, cultural expectations may influence adolescents like Sarah to reconcile conflicting dilemmas, identities based on family heritage and societal pressures. And there's a lot of identity crisis going on right now, based on what is going on in this era. There's sexual identity, there is just so much. People are trying to figure out who they are and who they want to fit culturally. Erikson's concept shed light on the intersection of individual psychology and societal influences during adolescence by addressing identity-related challenges from both clinical and sociological perspectives. So we can better support adolescents like Sarah in her journey towards self-discovery and well-being without judging her, because you know what? After that, she's gonna settle somehow. And this is what Mercier theory of identity status is talking about. So this person called James Mercier proposed the concept of identity status to describe an adolescent's position in the development of an identity. Exploration is referring to a person's exploring various options for a career and for personal values. So exploration is crucial for understanding oneself and finding direction in life, especially during this key time, during these key transitions like adolescence and early adulthood. I want to give an example of somebody like, you guys are in college, and any other person that is, Joyce, a college student, is exploring various internships and volunteer opportunities to discover her career path and personal values. I love the fact that I have done career guidance for a lot of students here in America. And I always wished something like that was done in Kenya. I know now these things are coming up, but a lot of people go to college without having explored even their career goals or career major. They don't know what they're getting into. It's just they just find themselves in college, which is can be an advantage, can be a disadvantage. So Joyce has already done this. She is able to go and shadow some people, some doctors, some psychologists, and figuring out. That is what you're talking about, exploration. Psychologists emphasize that exploration is vital for identity development. It can help young individuals clarify their values, interests, and even their career aspirations. Sociologists consider how societal structures and cultural norms can shape such exploration. So imagine if you have a parent who is a doctor and is always talking to you about different careers. You don't have to become a doctor because I want you to explore. I want you to look at your uncle who is a lawyer. Just that encouragement those are factors like, family expectations can also affect your exploration, because a lot of, I know African parents, especially even here in the US, you hear almost every parent telling their kids, you are going to become a doctor because, you're going to get a lot of money and that's what you want for you. But, sadly, you're not allowing your child to explore. So factors like family expectations, like cultural values, are known to influence individuals' opportunities and choices. Exploration is a dynamic process and should be that is influenced by psychological and sociological factors, and should be allowed for individuals or adolescents to identify and whatever they are interested in. So the next one, after exploration, we're going to talk about commitment, because that's what happened. If you involves making a decision about which identity path to follow after you have already explored. So you make a personal investment in attaining that identity. Various combinations of exploration and commitment give rise to one of four identity status. Commitment refers to making firm decisions about a career. Okay, I have looked at a teacher, I don't want to become a teacher. I have looked at a doctor, I don't want to become a doctor. I have looked at a politician, I don't want to become a... You have explored before you have committed. Not getting out of high school, joining college, I'm going to be an engineer because I did very well in math, and that's not it that you require to explore. So your values and your relationships actually match your exploration, and now you have reflected and you have committed. So the next one is identity diffusion. In identity diffusion, the adolescent has neither explored nor committed to an identity. So you're just there. I have not explored if I want to become a professor. I have not explored. I don't want to explore, and I'm not committed. I'm just there. I have no idea what I'm doing. Identity moratorium. The adolescent is actively exploring and trying on new roles, but not committed to a particular identity. In identity foreclosure, the adolescent has committed to a particular identity, but has done so without actually exploring his or her options. Let me say this. When you're talking about identity status, we're not just talking about career. We are talking about even things like spiritual, okay? And this is a time when Marcia thinks or talks about how when students leave home and they go to college, they have this period where they explore. Do they want to become a Christian? Do they want to become a Muslim? Do they want to, stay in the Presbyterian church? Do they want to go to Pentecostal? So they have this. And after that exploration, they might even not go to church at all when they're in college. But when they, graduate, they'll be like, okay, I explored that life of being non-Christian. I explored that life of being non-religious, and I think this is the life I am going to commit to. Say that I might go back to church, and that's what you want, people to go back to, at least have some faith. All right. So the other one that you're going to talk about is identity achievement. The adolescent emerges with a sense of his or her own values and principles, a sense of the kind of person he or she wishes to be, and goal commitment that provides his or her life with a feeling of purpose. And this is also the greatest thing that you want your children to achieve. And even you guys were in college, you explored, you don't commit before you explore, and then you achieve. And this exploration of when you reach identity achievement is like you have put everything, all the factors together, and you have chosen what really that has driven you. These are your own values. Nobody has forced you. These are your own principles, not your parents. You have actually differentiated what Bohemian theory would talk about, and then you have umefika hiyo stage, you have arrived that stage of commitment, and that is the identity, the healthy identity achievement. So, and that's why I don't worry when I see a lot of young people exploring even sexuality, because I know that at the end of the day, I would hope that nobody gets offended by what I'm saying, but by the end of the day, we can support our children to continue exploring, because when they achieve their identity, we don't have to support them through that time when they want to change their gender or transgender. We can pray for them, we can guide them, we can reason with them, but by the end of the day, don't rush to do something that is permanent, because guess what, it is an exploration period and it's going to come to an end. That's my take on this, which I might not always be right as as far as other people are concerned. But that's a great thing to think about. Um, so let's talk about the ethnic identity within a large culture. So we know that, at some type of age, at a certain age, um, ethnic identity within a large culture, like even Kenya is a huge culture, America is a huge culture, but there are these ethnic groups or these smaller groups that are, they are smaller than the larger one, because you think about how many tribes there are in Kenya, how many nationalities are in America. So developing an identity in adolescence can be especially challenging for individuals from ethnic minority groups. I know that. I've seen my children struggle developing their culture even here in America, because they came from Kenya. We're not raising them like fully Kenyan. They're interacting with so many other nationalities, and this is a huge struggle. So some minority adolescents can face the challenges of biculturalism, meaning they have trouble identifying with their ethnic group. My children, my daughter did a TikTok video the other day, and she said that she is, she doesn't know whether she didn't say that. She said she's too American. She's too American for some Africans, and she's too African for some Americans. So that is what you can call biculturalism, because you are in between there. So both parents and peers play a very strong role in an adolescent's development. A crucial aspect of the managerial role of parenting is effective monitoring. During adolescence, individuals spend more time with their peers. I remember, and I always give this story about how when I learned that I was coming to America, my children were very young. Actually, the firstborn was about 6 years, and she never spoke English. She only spoke Swahili. And I started panicking, and I was thinking, when we go to America, how is she going to communicate with her friends? Let me tell you what, Maina. My daughter, I tried buying for her books, English books in Kenya. I tried to read for her stories, and she was not getting it. She would throw them away because I was worried. How is she going to cope in America? Let me tell you. We came to America. She was in class. She went to class 1 or standard 1 or first grade. And within the first month, she was already speaking American English. I'm not kidding. She would come home and she'd tell me, Mom, that's not how you say water. That's not how you say. And I was like, what? Yeah, because water is water. And she was so fast. And I was worried because what? She spent so much time at school with her peers, not with me at home. And that spending of time with peers, it increases as the child gets to adolescent stage. School years, but adolescents, over the weekend, they are always with their friends. On the phone in the evening, they're always with their friends. So there's a lot of influence by the time they're adolescent. The peer influences can be positive or negative. For Erikson, once the issues of identity have been resolved, the young adult turns to the important domain of intimate relationships. So yeah, we are moving from now these small relationships, you're going to the relationships of older people. Okay? Social emotional development in emerging adulthood. According to Jeffrey Annett, emerging adulthood is a transitional period from adolescence to adulthood. The age range of emerging adulthood is approximately 18 to 25 years. I know most of the college students are around that age. Experimentation and exploration characterize the emerging adult. So Annett identified 5 main features of emerging adulthood. The first feature is identity exploration, which we already talked about that, especially in love and work. So you're exploring your future, spouse, and also your work. During this time, many changes in identity take place. The second feature is instability, a sense of uncertainty in work, love, and education. You really don't know what you want. The third feature is being self-focused. During this time, a person feels no obligation to social situations. The individual feels little in the way of duties and commitments to others. The fourth feature is that of feeling in between, in which the person doesn't feel they are an adolescent, but they are not a full-fledged adult either. Okay, so Ever had somebody telling you you're too young, you're still my child, and then when it comes to, being responsible and paying those bills, your parents are telling you you are an adult. So you are in between. The fifth feature is the age of possibilities, a time when individuals have an opportunity to transform their lives. At this point, adults are optimistic about their future and have an opportunity to direct their lives in a positive direction. I hope that is the case for all my students. Okay. Social-emotional development. Talk about intimacy versus isolation. So Erikson talks about the sixth stage, which is called intimacy versus isolation. It refers to the challenge of forming intimate relationships with others or becoming socially isolated. So college students, listen here. At this age, if you don't form those intimate relationships, especially by the time you're 25, you're probably gonna be without this intimate relationship for a long time. That's what Erikson is talking about. That's not me. Erikson says that. Okay, so explore those relationships in college, after you go on your internship, after you start working. Don't just be a bookworm, because you might you might feel isolated later if you continue ignoring that. And of course, don't let those intimate relationships take over your college life. Make sure that you have a balance. You can have a boyfriend without being too are you know what I mean? You're still exploring. So you still cannot isolate yourself with one individual. So you can continue exploring, what kind of a spouse that you want, what kind of a boyfriend you want. Um, you know, while being careful. Okay. So let's talk about uh, marriage and families. Okay. So you have finished exploring, college is done, you have somebody you have identified, then what else? Marriage and families. A big change in social attitudes has been the decreased stigma attached to individuals who do not maintain what have long been considered conventional families. Adults live alone now, mostly. Live with a partner, live with an adult children, live with friends, marry or divorce. Cohabitation refers to living together in a sexual relationship without being married. Gottman has found 4 principles at work. Gottman is one of the major marriage researchers, and his research is really focused on trying to see about successful marriages and what it is that makes marriages strong, or what actually contributes to divorce. And this is what Gottman says, he found 4 principles at work with successful marriages. These are nurturing fondness and admiration. So when you get married, you want to nurture that fondness and admiration. Don't stop telling your spouse that she's beautiful, or he's cute, or he's handsome after you tie the knot. So that is something that you have to maintain. Turning toward each other as friends when you're talking to each other, not talking to each other facing the wall. You talk to each other facing each other. When you talk to each other, face each other. Giving up some power. So you don't have to always be the person in power. You can always give up for your spouse, regardless of your gender. Woman can be in power. Solving conflicts together. It's not always one person solving the conflict. And these are some of the factors that he has actually talked about. And they're actually from real research with real couples. He's done over 35 years of research, and I love Gottman. Theories. All right. So we're going to talk about middle adulthood as we come to conclude. So this is the stage that Erikson calls generativity versus stagnation. Erikson's 7th stage occurs in middle adulthood. So generativity means creating something of value that will benefit future generations. Like now, me personally, I can say that I have acquired some type of generativity. I have a children's home. Even if I'm not on this earth anymore, it's going to help future generations. I have worked, I have saved, I have done this and this. It's going to benefit future generations. So it doesn't have to just be your children, it can be other people. The feelings of having done nothing of value for future generations is called stagnation. So if you don't feel generative, you feel like you have stagnated. You don't want to feel stagnated. You want to feel like you have something that you have acquired. That's what Erikson is talking about. All right. So the other one is the integrative versus despair. Of course, the last stage. From Erikson's perspective, the person who has entered life's later years is engaged in looking back, evaluating his or her life, seeking meaning, and coming to terms with death. So think about your grandparents or your parents or you yourself if you are at this age, which is the late adulthood or the aging age. Erikson called this final stage integrative versus despair. So Laura Cartison developed social-emotional selectivity theory to address the narrowing of social contact and the increase in positive emotion that occur with age. The capacity to regulate emotions and to thereby maximize positive experiences appear to a central feature of aging. People who have aged and they don't feel like they have achieved a lot, they feel like they lack integrity, and that is what causes desperation. But if you see grandparents who they know they can look back, they can see they have grandkids, they can see that they have been able to educate, or they, even if they are not educated, they have educated other generations behind them. They will definitely feel like they have that integrity, and they are always proud of what they have achieved. And this is what Erikson is talking about. So I pray and I hope that whoever is listening this is not feeling the opposite of what Erikson expects in his stages. And of course, there's a lot of criticism for Eric's work. It's not that he's perfect, but what I can add with is saying that Erikson mainly practiced case study research, which some reject. Some people reject as the only research foundation for his approach. Critics also argue that Erikson's attempt to capture each age with single concept leaves out other important developmental tasks. While Erikson theories offer valuable insights, it relies heavily on case studies and oversimplifies complex developmental tasks. So some argue that Erikson's reliance on case studies limit the theory's validity. His reduction of each stage to a single concept overlooks important developmental mindsets. So because I always think, if I'm not feeling like I have that integrity and I'm not feeling this desperation, so where am I? So there has to be a middle point, but Erikson just gives two concepts, which is obviously what is making people criticize it. Okay? So Erik Erikson brought flair to clinical psychology by introducing his 8-stage psychosocial development theory. From infancy to old age, he showed us how to navigate life's challenges, blending psychology with sociology for a captivating understanding of human behavior. His theory helps therapists accompany clients of all ages, guiding them through identity exploration and growth. And I sometimes use these stages when I am working with young people, when I'm working with older people, and I'm working with very young adolescents. And I think that we cannot only rely on one theory, and of course the other theory. So thank you so much for watching my video today. Definitely want to hear if you have any feedback. I hope you don't get stagnated. You keep moving, explore those relationships, explore those careers, talk to people that have gone before you and ask for advice, and don't always assume that you cannot make it happen. Thank you.